hello there everybody, welcome back to the channel. It's Space Cowboy here with another video for you guys here today. And in today's video, we are doing another mock draft this Monday, but not any ordinary, just one round mock draft. We are now going to a full 3-round mock draft, like I said we would, as we are right now on the front doorstep of free agency. I would say that in terms of the needs that we've discussed in the previous mock drafts, which I will link it at the top right of the screen right now to the previous one so you can get caught up, we've talked about what the needs are for the team and they haven't changed. Aside from now, this week, I would say that left tackle becomes a primary need as opposed to a secondary need now that we know that Tyron Smith is most likely to walk in this free agency period. So we're going to go ahead and dive into this 3-round mock draft. And to just give you guys a little bit of an expectation of how we're going about these 3-round mock drafts, I would say that it's a mix of what I think the Cowboys would do, and not only what they would do, but if I were them, what I would do in that position. Just trying to get a mix of that so I can set you guys up with a proper expectation of what I think this team is going to do come draft night. So sit back, relax, and let's dive straight into this 3-round mock draft.
And here comes the pick.
With the 24th pick, the Dallas Cowboys select
Jordan Morgan, offensive tackle, Arizona. Now we're getting closer to the beginning of free agency, and alongside that, we're getting reports of what the Cowboys are running into as they're getting ready for free agency to open up in terms of re-signing their guys. And it looks like the Cowboys have reached an impasse with Tyron Smith's representation, and so he's most likely going to leave because he's not getting the financial compensation that he wants, and he's probably not wanting to take another discount that he's been giving the Cowboys, considering how long of a contract he was just on, and they just redid the deal. And considering the fact that he did take a... And we also have to consider that he took a pay cut, basically, for the final year of his contract, making it more incentive-laced than it was originally. So with Tyron moving on, now the Dallas Cowboys have to figure out what they have to do for their offensive line. And in this particular scenario, they're keeping Tyler Smith at left guard, and they're going to draft Tyron Smith's replacement, and that's Jordan Morgan. Now, aside from him being the best player on the board at his position at 24 in this mock draft for the Cowboys to select, there's other reasons to buy into him. First off, you talk about a dude with the frame that he has, 6'6", 320 pounds, that's a check. How he uses the frame. You have a combination of power and athleticism that you would love in a left tackle with him. That's a check. You look at how quick he is getting out of his stance. That's a check. You talk about his technique and how well he plays the position, not just with his physical attributes. That's a check. I'm talking about how well he does against these edge rushers. You're talking about how well he does in the run game, getting to the second level. All impressive things on film and in his scouting reports. Everything is consistent. And another key thing you want to buy into this guy, the experience he has in college. Over 2,400 snaps at left tackle. That's a big reason to buy in. Now, there are other guys that you can argue maybe could be better, in terms of what they can bring physically. But if you're looking for a guy that has the experience that you would want, where you can plug and play him at the position, and maybe he might have a little bit less of an athletic ability than some of his contemporaries, but it's still near on par. I mean, sign me up. I think that this would be a slam dunk pick for the Cowboys, given with what he would bring to the table, and if there really is no other better option on the board. If you're just looking for a safe offensive tackle pick, I think Jordan Morgan would be very good for the Cowboys. Now, the only negative that I would have for him that I have seen is sometimes he can be a bit too aggressive in the run game, using his momentum against him when he's trying to get to the second level. But that's pretty much it. He's otherwise a very sound prospect. I don't see a reason why he couldn't translate to the NFL with what he's done, and I wouldn't be shocked if he goes before the Cowboys pick, but if he's on the board and they take him, I wouldn't be upset with that. Your left side set for 2 years with two guys that can be maulers, and why the hell not?
And here comes the pick.
the Dallas Cowboys select
Jonathan Brooks, running back, Texas. Now this screams Dallas Cowboys second rounder if I've ever seen one, and there's for several reasons. Now the reason that he's even in this position to be selected is primarily having to do with the ACL tear he suffered in November during a game versus TCU. So you have a late ACL tear. The Cowboys team doctors worked with him, so they're familiar with this guy. And I wouldn't be shocked if they see that the vitals are good in their humble opinions, that they would take a chance on Jonathan Brooks in round 2. Now, aside from the ACL tear, what is there to like about Jonathan Brooks? So starting things off with his measurables, 6 foot, 216 pounds. That's a nice build for a running back. But what kind of running back is he? Based off of what I've seen through his time at Texas, he is a guy that loves contact, likes to run in between the tackles, which is typically the type of running backs the Cowboys like to have. Then you look at what he can do in the passing game for you. I think he has the capability of becoming a good 3-down back at the NFL level. I think he needs to continue working on his pass blocking abilities. But as for pass catching, I think it's good enough where it's at so that you can use him when needed. You look at his speed, you look at his vision, things to like there. I think that this is a type of running back that the Cowboys would want. As we saw what happened last year with Tony Pollard, they had a ton of issues with how he was reading incorrect holes and gaps to run through, and that led to a lot of plays being missed on the field that Tony Pollard could have taken advantage of. I think that you would get that fixed here with Jonathan Brooks, but there are some concerns that I have for him. The first thing is his running style I don't think is sustainable in the NFL for a long period of time. He's a very physical back, and if he wants to be able to sustain his career longer than the initial 4 years on his rookie scale contract, I think he's going to need to bulk up a tiny bit more so that he's able to take on those hits. Another thing is, considering he's coming off that ACL injury, we don't know if that's going to become a reoccurring problem. But if we're looking at getting a guy that can be a productive player for you for at minimum 4 years, and if you can get him back on the cheap after the 4-year contract, I think it's worth the risk. But with where we were at on the board, I think that there were some other guys that I'd be willing to take at other positions like wide receiver. Maybe you can double dip at offensive line if you're feeling concerned there. Corner, you name it. You can throw out any position. But I wanted to go with a pick that I think the Cowboys would do at round 2 just for this first 3-round mock draft that we're doing. So tell me what you think at this pick. But let's go on to our final selection in this 3-round mock draft.
And here comes the pick.
The Dallas Cowboys select
McKinley Jackson, defensive tackle, Texas A&M. So the Dallas Cowboys have met with Jackson at the Combine, but also we've heard with what Will McClay was talking about while he was at the Combine, and that was getting bigger bodies for this defense, and also coinciding with what Jerry was talking about with trying to stop the run. I wouldn't be shocked if they went with a defensive tackle here in the 3rd round, or even with the 2nd round, depending on who's on the board and who they like. They met with several defensive tackles, and this team is looking to add to this defensive line room. Now, we see that Jonathan Hankins is most likely going to walk in free agency. We haven't heard word of him coming back or them looking not to bring him back. You get another year of development out of Mazi Smith. You try to see what he can end up doing for this team. But more importantly, Osa Odigizua, who is your best defensive tackle, is going into the final year of his contract in 2024. He'll be a free agent in 2025. If the Cowboys don't re-sign him, then you're in a situation where you probably are going to have to draft another defensive tackle or two to replenish the room, with already Jonathan Hankins most likely walking out the door. While I would like Hankins back, we don't know what the Cowboys want to do. But also, while I would like for Osa to stay with the Cowboys, we don't know what his contract demands are. And probably looking at what he's done and his market, he could probably command maybe $10 to $11 million a year, which a lot of people might scoff at. But that's just how the market is. For a player of his caliber, you're probably looking at that price point as the cap continues to go up. So with you drafting McKinley Jackson, you have a guy that could come into this defensive tackle room, take this first year to develop, get his feet wet, and see how he can pair alongside Mazi Smith. These two can probably be a pair for the long term. He's a big dude. This dude's 6'1", 331 pounds, and when it comes to what he can do for you at the defensive tackle position where he can play, right now, I think his best bet is to play nose tackle, but he can also play 3-tech or 4-tech for you. I just don't see a way that the Cowboys, if they really want to get bigger bodies on that defensive line, don't go this direction. Even if it's not Jackson, it can be any other player that is at the defensive tackle position. A couple of the positives that I take away with looking at a prospect like McKinley Jackson is he's a very disruptive player. He's able to collapse interior offensive lines. He is a big guy that takes up a lot of space, which is what you need at the defensive tackle position, especially if you're trying to beef up this run defense. You look at a couple of things on tape, and a lot of the things that I see is that while he can be disruptive, there are moments where he doesn't capitalize on being disruptive. I know that this is going to sound so cliche. He lacks agility to make plays on the more athletic guys. I mean, he's a big dude. The hell you want me to say? But that's something you got to bring up. He's not a fast dude. He's a big dude. The other thing, too, is in terms of getting on the edge, I think that that's going to be a problem at the NFL level, is a lot of the time when he tries to get into the backfield to make plays on these ball carriers, he can try to disengage from these blockers from time to time, and he miscalculates how far they are away, and it can lead to trouble. So those are things he's going to need to work on. But if you want a big dude with a ton of potential to eat up space, I think this is a pick that the Cowboys can make. They really like this guy. I wouldn't be shocked if they threw a pick at the defensive tackle position, but to me, this would be a pick where we're trying to right now replace Jonathan Hankins, and then long-term try to pair him with Mozzie Smith if you don't bring back Osa. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was the 3-round mock draft. Go ahead and tell me what you would do in your own 3-round mock draft with the Dallas Cowboys. Tell me how things panned out. Do you like this draft? What would you grade it? Please put that down in the comment section below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye.